Hi everyone, my name is Iben and welcome to another episode of the Zoo of Ghent. In today's episode we're going to be looking at the first two exhibits of the brand new European area of the zoo, starting off with this garden and moving on to this magnificent aviary over here. I've been really looking forward to sharing it with you all, so let's dive in. A big focus of the European area of the zoo is about how the local wildlife in Europe has been on the decline for a very long time. We've lost a lot of our megafauna and we're also losing a lot of our smaller animals as well. And no better way to start this off with than a pollinator garden. This is inspired by the Zoo of Antwerp, just like the aviary in the back. And I thought it was really interesting to put a garden on top of the administration building because that's exactly where we are. If I go to the edge of this roof, you'll see that we're here on the administration building and not just somewhere else. Like if I can just, you can see a window over there. This is, as I said, inspired by the roof garden of the Zoo of Antwerp. They have a roof garden on top of the gift shop. I don't think it's currently accessible, but yeah, I really liked that concept, so I had to introduce this here as well. I used some of these insect hotels from the workshop. They're really cool. I don't think I could have done a better job making these, so I decided to use the ones that are on the workshop, and these would house a whole bunch of animals like bees and bumblebees. On top of that, I've also used the walkthrough exhibit, which causes the guests to act a little bit funky because I've basically placed the exhibit underneath a path, and that never really works well. I think it will also give some issues when I try to cross this area, so I'm going to quickly try it. There we go. But yeah, I really like the way this garden looks. I really like the focus on smaller insects and their importance in our day-to-day life. I am going to be adding some signs here as well, but currently I kept it the way it is because I don't know how many signs I want to add. I still want to keep this relatively open and have the focus a lot on the animals themselves and on the gardens here. That is a really cool thing. One thing that I also really love is the fact that you can see the boat from all the way over here. It really is something that just draws you towards that thing if you've decided to go to the European area first. But speaking of things that are drawing us further, I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. Let's go and take a look at this massive aviary, because as I mentioned, this is an aviary inspired by the Zoo of Antwerp, and if you've ever been to the Zoo of Antwerp, I think you already know what we're going to look at, because this is not a regular aviary. No, this is an aviary that has a cattle inside of it. Just look at that. Freaking amazing. So, if you didn't know, the Zoo of Antwerp has a similar kind of aviary setup. Instead of focusing on European wildlife, it focuses on African wildlife, and they have a combination of all kinds of African birds and the African buffalo, whilst in here we have the hack cattle, which is the best way to call it a rebreed. They're trying to introduce the old, currently extinct otters and trying to breed them back. So this is not the actual extinct animal. Instead, this is a reintroduction, rebreeding. I really don't know how to call this and what it is called in real life or in English, but I really like the concept. The idea of this aviary is that you enter an area that has a lot more animals. You have these old animals of yours that used to live in Europe everywhere and now are just limited to very specific spaces in Europe. And that contrast is going to be very important because the rest of the European area will have much less animals. So the idea that the wildlife of Europe is on the decline and that we have less and less contact with animals here in Europe is an important thing that I want to convey by building this area the way it is. But before we continue on and take a look at that, I just want to take some more time to just really take this aviary in. I really love it. I worked on this for the past week and a half, and it just works, you know. I I even started off with a smaller aviary. It usually just, in the first design, stopped over here. But the people on Just Goron's server really encouraged me to add even more birds in this aviary. And that meant that I had to make it a little bit bigger, which I did, and I don't regret it one bit. I really, really, really love the way it looks. It just works so well, you know? All the animals are usually on top of all the rockwork. Currently, they are all inside of the cattle exhibit. That's of course fantastic. That only happens when you start to record, of course. But yeah, it's a really cool combination in real life, and I like it even more here in Planet Zoo, where I can play a little bit more fast and loose with the regulations that you would have to have in real life. The cattle do have their own indoor area, and at the other side of the exhibit, of the aviary, there will be several holes that will lead to a backstage building. The backstage building is already there, but you can't see it because of all of the rockwork. This view just really, really makes me hope that we'll get some kind of aviary system, or birds at least, because this is so amazing. I really like it a lot, and I'm not really an aviary or a bird guy in real life, but having this and being able to build something like this is so freaking cool. Now, we've looked at what I've built so far. I'll take you on a trip towards the outside of this aviary to give you an idea of what the European area is going to look like in the future. So let's take a look at that. And I spoke about contrasts in the previous section of the video, and that's really what I want to achieve here. There's only going to be 2 exhibits here. There is an exhibit for wolves on this side, and there is going to be a massive exhibit for Przewalski's horse and Weissend right over there. And as you can already see, there is already a African area forming in the background, and that is going to again be a contrasting view, because right behind these European plains exhibits, you will actually already see the savanna exhibit as well, really showcasing what this area could have been in the past, and instead really creating this contrast of a very lushly filled African safari savanna exhibit and a much less filled European plains exhibit with only 2 animals in it. Again, this contrast is important to me. I don't think every zoo guest that will ever visit the zoo will get that, but that's okay. I really just want to convey this message in here, and if only a few people that ever visit the zoo get that, then I'll be happy. This is of course still all work in progress, so I'm not going to show you too much, but I am going to zoom out even more and give you a little more of an idea of how far the zoo is right now. Let's look at that as well. Because the European area of the zoo is basically the second to last area of the zoo. We have this area set out for the European area of the zoo, and then all that is left right over here is going to be the African area of the zoo. I'm going to split it up into 2 separate sections. There is going to be more of a traditional savanna exhibit right over here, and I'm going to build a more rainforest area right over here. Hopefully I'm going to be inspired by my visit to the zoo in Overloon, which recently built a entirely new African area in their zoo. On top of that, I want to add 2 more staff buildings as well. I think in this area right here, I want to make my big zookeeper's kitchen, so that they have one central point where everything gets made and can be brought throughout the entire zoo. And on this side, I think I'm going to be making a bunch of stables that can easily be connected to the outside of the zoo through this road over here. And then I just have to connect up everything a little bit here, get rid of a lot of the blueprints right there, and then we're getting very close to getting this zoo finished, something I didn't think I was going to say. I am keeping a few more things that I need to finish up in some of the areas of the zoo. Like for instance, there are a few areas in Edenya that I still want to finish up. There's some parts in here that I need to finish. And I've already extended part of the Asian area and built some cool stuff over here as well. But I need these kinds of little side projects that whenever I am tired of working on the European area or the African area, that I can just quickly work on those parts of the zoo and just get that out of my system for now. So yeah, those are episodes that you can look forward to. We'll for certain go and visit this section of the zoo quite quickly. I hope somewhere in the next few weeks, and then I hope to showcase the rest of the European area right after that. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I really hope you've enjoyed this zoo so far. I'm really happy with the result, and I'm really glad that I've started working on this project. Let me know what you think of this episode and this zoo in the comments. Do everything you want to do, like, comment and subscribe. And I hope to see you all again in another episode of the Zoo of Ghent.